This is Phantom Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Marta Czajkowska, and you're the transformational coach and founder of Masters of Badassery, and we've got your website below. And I want to thank you for being on the Phantom Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Oh, thanks for having me. Doing really, really good. Thank you.
Now, a couple questions we ask of any guest on the podcast before we get to the heart of your story is what motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Ooh, those are big questions. How much time you have? um, I am on a mission to bring humanity back into a, deep connection with nature. And
Mhm.
so I believe that when we develop intimacy with nature, we spend time in nature, we will heal all the things that are plaguing us today in the world. So that's my big mission. I want to take world leaders into wilderness and have them weather storms so that they will protect our environment.
Yeah, because Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is famous for the poem that basically nature is a cathedral, and that you can be restored by going into nature. And I do a lot of I live in New Hampshire, these big tall pines, and I'm a mountain biker and hiker and snowshoer, and I find that going out into the forest is very restorative.
Mm,
Uh, Being a
right.
part Native American, it's kind of a tradition of indigenous Cherokee, Blackfoot, Apache, all the Native American tribes. Is that that's kind of the mystique of the a lot of indigenous people in the Americas is that nature
Correct.
is equal to man or above man.
Right. And
uh,
so many people never have this experience this day of age. And so they don't even have a chance to experience what you were talking about when you're going mountain biking in the woods. Yeah.
yeah, we're so tied to computers. I mean, I have a day job. I'm a software guy, but I find it's very necessary being in that field to go out and hike and mountain bike and get into the woods because
Mhm.
it's so antiseptic and so outside of what nature is that I need to be able to be in both worlds. Um,
Absolutely.
but I think we tend to stay in one.
Right. We do what we know. We do what we're familiar with. And that's just that's human brain and animal brain. And so all it is introducing ourselves to that natural world and spending time there,
Yeah,
developing
because
connection.
that's like our ancestors. That's where they that's their wheelhouse was nature, and then
Correct.
the industrial age and everything else that comes from civilization starts to take that out of us, and then we lose some of our natural capacities to like
Hmm.
know, you know, there's a lot of medicines that are in the rainforest, they're in the forest, but we lose sight of it. You have to go to, pharmaceuticals, and we lose sight of what is actually given to us as, human beings being citizens of the planet. There's stuff that's
Correct.
here. And then we've kind of fallen into, oh, we need to get that from product X, from company X,
Right.
instead of understanding like it's in the world. You can seek it
Right.
out.
Hmm.
And the forest can restore you probably better than any.
It's free, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't cost anything, and in there we can get into deep, intimate connection, which is something that products that we buy can never give us.
yeah, there's something cold and, antiseptic, and, I'm a musician and I like to play like, an acoustic instrument. No, I do I'm a synthesis, and I play pianos and, clarinets and horns and different instruments. Is like I just feel like when you're playing something that's more acoustic, it feels closer to like the real sound. Though today
Uh-huh.
everybody can do these things with computers, but I'm like it's better if you do it on a real piano. Though you could go in your computer and you could mimic the piano, but it's like it
Mhm,
feels as a musician, I feel better if I'm actually playing a piano or playing a guitar.
mhm.
There's
Right.
still with machines, but there seems to be more closer to frequency, and frequencies out in the woods. I can hear it from the birds and the
Mhm.
stream, and I can kinda get into those frequencies through my hands, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Or your voice too. Your voice is an instrument, like, in itself. Like, once you learn, like, through chanting or vocalizations, that you don't have to have a guitar to
Right.
actually use a voice instrument, which is, what you can do with your mouth. You do
Mhm, totally a natural sound, yeah.
so, the Masters of Badassery, how did that come about? What is it? What can tell people what's that? What is your focus?
Yeah. I have been literally hanging on the side of the mountain for the last 25 years of my life. As in my teenage years, I discovered rock climbing, and it was something that pulled me out of the world I was in and helped me create my life. And I grew up in Poland, and I left Poland in the search for, cliffs on all the edges of the world to
Like
climb.
all the mountains that you
Yeah,
can find?
and I was living that life in nature, looking at myself and with living with challenges that the mountains bring. And one day I was reflecting on what I'm doing, and I realized it's gotten kind of boring. Like, I've
Mhm.
been doing this for so long, I think I'm ready for another level of
Oh, is that your dog? Wait, it's alright. Nature calls. You okay?
I'm ready for another level of personal growth.
Mhm.
And I knew right away what that was going to be, which is for myself to start working with people and sharing what I've been learning on the side of the mountain for so long.
Oh, so you try to bring that world to people that haven't been in that world. So you're kinda
Correct.
a bridge.
But I didn't know how to do this. This is just like any new idea that we have. It's like, yeah, great, we have this idea, but I didn't have no idea how to do this. Really. I had
Mhm.
been a climbing guide, but being a guide is different because people come and they hire you to do their objective. And so they were still getting out into the mountains and doing the thing, but there wasn't a whole lot of depth into their exploration, right?
More
It's a little
physical,
bit,
more
yeah,
physical.
right.
Yeah,
It's a goal. It's a physical thing. It's great. I've been doing climbing all my life, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And so I don't know how I landed on this, but I decided, well, I guess I have to become a coach. I have to learn how to coach people, and then I can bring these two worlds together.
'cause, I mean, you're
Um,
out there, you're coaching, I guess, when you're on the trail and you're on the mountain. Like, I'm with mountain bikers, I remember when I taught some guys that didn't know how to go down a mountain or go down a
correct.
creek bed or climb a
Right.
creek bed without falling
Hmm.
back, and, like, it's stuff that you can do, it's nonverbal, or it's just like, once you become, you actually could create a video, you could create a book, but if you're out in the world doing it, it's different, like, in real time doing it on the trail
Right.
is different than
Right.
actually being in a classroom or on a podium or on the net. How do you translate, like, how do you is a portal, like you said, there's, like, this idea of, like, midlife isn't a crisis, it's a portal, but, like, how do you guide people from one frame to another?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you pulled this up. It's not a crisis, it's a portal, right? At some point, we arrive at the place where where our evolution feels like it's stalled out. Like we're just like, okay, I did all this and now what? What's
Mhm,
next, right? And so for many people, especially when that happens in the middle of their life, they're like, but I don't have any other skills. I don't know what else to do. Like, now what? There's a lot of fear because we're no longer 20, so we're not as easy to jump into new things. We have our responsibilities, right?
yeah.
Um, and so I love to use that time because to me, as a coach, any type of crisis is a place for an opening. That means that the structures of how we think currently are disintegrating, and so there's room for something new to come in.
Yeah,
And so any
that's
of the people that are listening who are in crisis know that uh, the wound is where the light can enter, right? The difficulty is precisely the thing that can open the door for
true.
the new thing.
Well, the struggle is the opportunity, and what we say, like in music, in modal jazz or improvisational experimental music, is there's no bad note. There's an opportunity. So if you're within a song structure, like in fusion or modal jazz, somebody hits a note that's unexpected. You you because you've done 10,000 hours of being a musician, you could kind of guess what I can guess what that could be, and I'll just
Right.
follow that, and I won't stop the song. I will evolve the song. Now, there's pressure in that, and if you're used to being somebody giving you the instructions on a sheet of music, and you
Right.
expect to have that next note to be exactly what you expect, and then you're given something that you don't expect, then you have to think on the fly. You have to do it in the moment. That is
Mhm.
very scary to people who want set patterns. So if
Correct.
you're in your life and have very patterned behavior and loops, and you haven't seen or that suddenly somebody gives you something that's not in your wheelhouse, or you don't think it is, you don't know what to do.
Right, correct. And life like nature and life is volatile. It's uncertain, right? So in some ways, the more we can invest in being flexible and adjust and roll with what comes, the more we can turn an obstacle into an opportunity, and experience what we want in our life. So I
Yeah,
love the parallel that you have with jazz because, we're talking about jazz masters that are able to, right,
yeah.
perform and
They
take the
can
note
pivot on
and
a
play
dime,
with
they can just
it.
pivot. Yeah, they just pivot on a dime, and, like, I don't have to even know what the song was, I can just be in the moment
Yeah.
and just go wherever it's gonna go, and, that's just something I love about it, but there's the problem today with a lot of things is that, I see young people, they because of the computer, because of the tech, people
Mhm.
try to go for perfection because you can
Correct.
go in and you can correct something.
Mhm.
And back in the day when things were on tape or things are, live or it's harder to do, then you didn't always go back and correct it. You kind of maybe would do it again, but you didn't go back into it and try to fix it. You actually had to play it again. Now
Uh-huh.
you can actually go in and change it to make it perfect. But is perfection really the goal? Because in art, a lot of things are the happy accident. And if
Correct.
you spend too much time perfecting, you actually destroy the art. And I think
Mhm.
that follows in other parts of life that like
And
when you can have these tools that can make something so perfect, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't have life, it
mhm.
doesn't have heart, it doesn't have soul, and it's like, "What is that really what you want?" Like, it's kinda what AI could do, but is it really
Right.
what you want?
Mhm. Yeah, and perfectionism is something that's pulling us out of the present moment, right? We're focusing so much on the outcome. What do I want this to look like? How do I want to present this? That it often can pull us out of being present in the moment. And life doesn't happen outside of the moment, right? Life is just moment and moment and moment.
Moment, yeah, yeah,
So perfectionism can be a really, really dangerous trap of not being present to what is and missing out on what is happening right outside uh, of our computer screen or whatever it is that we're trying to perfect.
yeah. Because you could be, like, surviving, you could be kinda just, phoning it in, or you can be leading. If the thing is, like, when you lead, if you think like a bell curve, like, you're gonna be on the outer edge of that kind of bell curve, like how people get measured, and when you're on the outer edge, people maybe have not seen that before. They've not heard it before, they don't so then immediate reaction is that people will hate it, or they don't
Mhm,
understand. And,
mhm.
when you're an innovator or you're a pioneer, you end up in the space that's outside of the canon.
Right.
And when you're outside the canyon, people will say, "Well, you're going the wrong way."
Right, and or I mean, I hear you, and I think that's correct. And in the age of, AI, creativity, right? There is more and more value to the real human authenticity that we can provide for each other as a way of connection, right? So, and now we're going back to the mountains where in the mountains on the trail, you're going to see yourself as you are in that moment. You don't get to make a pretty face for the
Yeah,
camera,
yeah.
right? And see how you're looking on the outside, but it's you in that moment. And what happens is in the normal world, we often project our own judgments onto ourselves and we say, "Oh, we feel judged," or "I should behave in a certain way because otherwise I will be judged by other people." And
Mhm.
that just doesn't happen in nature. Nature will never judge you. You can show up however you are, and all you're going to be left with is your own judgments
Yeah, your
that
own.
you're bringing onto yourself. And
Yeah,
that's a
I mean,
beautiful place to dive in and look at.
what I remember about mountain biking is going to Vermont and going to Mount Snow and going down like a creek bed, with no snow on it, with a bike, or going up a creek bed, and it's like this skill set that eventually where you get confident enough that you can do that at speed,
Right.
and you're rolling over rocks and going over off camber, and you just can go gliding through the woods, and
Yeah.
it just feels like you can't think about other things, that you have to be in that moment or you will hit the tree or you'll fall off the bike. Like you don't have the kind of ability to be distracted, be listening to your music in the background. Like you have to focus.
And that's why we love it so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the idea that nature, like they be the mountain itself is the trial. Like being able to master not getting kicked off the bike, not falling off, not being able to make that climb and hit. Like you have your own personal goal. And there's everybody's on the mountain trying to get to wherever they're going to go, but everybody has their own interpretation of what they're trying to get to. There's like
Right.
15 people, 20 people on the trail. How you're dealing with the trail is like you and your body and your mindset on the trail. This other guy's like that's their body, their mindset on the trail. It's like,
Totally, right? It's all an inner game, right? Is what it ends up being. And so often we are playing an inner game that when we're not looking at it from the outside, when we're not um, aware, we might be playing an inner game that's not a winning game, right? So
mhm.
I often talk about deciding and rigging a winning game for ourselves that we get to play, whether it's on the trail, for you playing your music. What is the game that you want to set up for yourself that you can play? And now it becomes examined. The thing that happens, me and myself on the trail, is an examined and purposeful exploration, as opposed to the ruminating of the old stories over and over and over.
Yeah, but the bad loops we call them, like you get into a bad loop. It's like where's the hook? It's like
Yeah.
you want something. It's like sometimes you might have something that's just a groove, but it's not a
Mhm.
song, right?
Mhm.
It's not an album. It's not even a. It's a piece of a song, but it's not the whole thing. And it's like you could. It's like, well, that's where I am. It's like, but you got to piece it together. What's the goal? Is the goal to just have a groove and sell that, or is
Mhm.
it to actually build it into something else? And sometimes you don't know what you want. And that's
Right.
fine if you don't know what it is, but you kinda have to have an intention, and then are you going to feel empty about it if you don't hit it, right? Like, 'cause a lot of times, like in songwriting, I might have, like, multiple variations of something, and it could take a day, it could take weeks, it could take a year.
Mhm.
At some
Yeah. How
point.
do you get out of your groove? Like, how do
Yeah,
you get out of this?
yeah, it's hard because sometimes you have to let it go. Like, if something doesn't work, like,
Mhm.
and you hit it and you're like on a 99th take and it's not working unless you're contractually obligated to do it, you might drop it and come back to it.
Mhm.
Because it's actually like you have diminishing returns if you're not getting there. And it's actually better to walk away. And I've talked to a
If
lot
you're
of
trying
writers.
to hold on too tight, you're probably not going to come up with what you want. Hmm,
There's
right?
that point where you got to know is like, are you actually ready?
Mhm.
Like, did you get the level? Like, if you're like trying to climb that hill as a mountain biker and your fitness level is not there, you don't know your gearing's not right. Like, if you can't get that combination of the fitness level, the gearing, the breathing, your heart rate, well, you're not. If you're not ready, you're not going to be able to get it right, until you get to a
Right.
level where you could do it.
Mhm.
And then
Right.
you gotta be like, you could stay there all day trying to do it, but your fitness level's not right, your nutrition
Mhm.
wasn't right, whatever, something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Might not hit
Meanwhile,
it that
you're
day.
just learning, right? You're just up there learning, right? Because nothing has gone wrong, right? You're just
Yeah,
like,
you just
okay,
know.
well, I gotta adjust, adjust.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
might not be able to do it at the cadence that this other guy does it, and maybe that's the problem. You're trying to attack it at a certain cadence. This other guy can do it at this many revolutions on a sprocket, but you gotta do it at a different level, that's you. And the problem is that
Mhm.
you're going for that comparison trap. You're trying to get that guy's got this level of fitness, this level of expertise, and you have yours. Now, that doesn't mean you both can't get the hill, but you might hit
Mhm.
it at different points.
Right. Yeah, what is the game that you're playing? What is the game that the other person is playing, right? We get to decide. Maybe that's all I want is to get better at matching his speed,
Yeah.
right?
Or just be able to hit the hill. Like, not the fact that they hit the hill like with him or by myself, or like,
Yeah,
I did it in 2 minutes and he did it, he did it like a minute and a half. Like,
right.
he's like, which one's better? It's like, well, that's you.
Exactly.
Is that really what you're trying to hit? To outdo him or outdo what
Mhm.
you can do?
Mhm.
You know, but like people can feel they've done something right, right, but then they still feel empty. Like if all your goals make you feel empty, then maybe you're in the wrong, you got the wrong strategy.
Yeah, and that's a huge point, right? It's a way of examining where did these goals come from? Are they updated? Are they resonant with who you are right now? Right? Because so often we get to a time in our life where it's like, oh my God, oh, like who told me to do all this shit?
Yeah,
Like, how did I get here? That's nothing wrong. Nothing's gone wrong. It's only that you might need to go back in and start looking for what's really driving you. What is your desire right now telling you which path to take? And by desire, I don't mean like, "Oh, I want this car or
mhm.
whatever. By desire, I mean, what is really attracting you, pulling your attention towards? Because likely that will set you up on the path of your new evolution. And it will likely be a thing that's going to fuel you with universal energy and help you evolve.
I think a lot of people, maybe they were put on career paths because it was what is expected of them. Like, if you come from a family of lawyers and they're all partners, and they expect you to be a lawyer. Family of doctors, they expect you to be a surgeon. And then if you go outside of that, at some point, I've run into people on the show, they like were on that kind of path, and then they realized, like, midlife, that actually really wasn't what they wanted. It was what somebody else wanted.
Good for
And
them for finding that, right?
yeah, and it's always kind of a kind of like a crucible moment when you realize I'm actually living for somebody else's dream. I'm not now.
And
I
and
actually want to live my own dream.
And it can be even worse because we often are not just living their dreams, but we're avoiding what they are afraid of, right? So if my parents are lawyers, they are afraid, likely, that if I am not a lawyer, I will not be able to have a life that is going to be good, blah, 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 right? So often, and this is for everybody who's listening to think about, like, where am I listening to other people's fears and internalizing them and say, and not doing what I want to do because they are afraid of it. The
Yes.
moment we can label it as not my own fear, but oh, that was my mom's fear. Now
Mhm.
I'm free. Now I can, nothing wrong with being a lawyer. If that's where your energy, that your drive, that's what you want, great. But to know that we don't have to listen to other people's fears about us.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency to wanna keep people safe. It's like a human fear and safety, and, they're running from the wolf. We're trying to stay away from the saber tooth, and, if you get kicked out of the tribe, then you're alone against the wolf. And so we have all these kind of virtual wolves that can feel like the real one.
Oh
You can
yeah.
get triggered by words, like, moments, deja vu. You see something and it triggers like, "Oh, that now I don't feel safe." So then
Correct. And
your fear comes in.
so
Yeah.
often we don't even know what it is. That's the beautiful and huge thing of how do we break out? All we need to do is become conscious of what these walls are. Start actually seeing them. And when we do, we can realize that we can find safety in other ways, right? Because safety is there to be found in 10,000 ways.
Yeah.
But only if we wake up to the wall that's telling us that there's only one way.
Yeah, that's the kinda trap that people get stuck in, like, this is the only way to think. Like, ideologies can get people trapped in a bad loop. Like, mindsets, you could have a certain mindset, and it's like, it's not gonna be a growth mindset. It's gonna be this kind of fear mindset. Like, you aren't good enough, imposter syndrome kind of mindset. Like, somebody told you you weren't good enough, and then you believed
Mhm.
it until you didn't. And it
Yeah.
took, like, a lot of work to get to that crucible moment. It was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's actually not true."
Hopefully you wake up to it. Hopefully, I wish for everybody to have that midlife crisis so that you can wake up to it. And once you do, there is so many ways to get help around this. There's so many people, therapy and coaching and uh, nature things, sports. There's many, 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 many ways of recreating that safety for yourself yet again. But the awakening is absolutely necessary before that can happen.
And you work with women because the ideas of, like, what you know about yourself, and, there's kind of this, I was looking at one of the questions you like to answer is, like, what do you wish every woman knew about herself? And
Mm,
I was wondering, like, in terms of, like, thinking about, like, that kinda issue, because, there's this concept the Victorians had of, like, the looking glass self, where
mhm.
you kinda look in the mirror and you do that self-examination. So what's that kind of concept of, what you know about yourself or what you don't, what you think you should know?
Mm. Yeah, as any kind of minority, women as a minority, we've been uh, seeped in all kinds of um, opinions and beliefs of what we are and what we aren't, right? There is all kinds of limitations, starting even with Hollywood actresses make half of what the Hollywood actors make. Like it's going
Mhm.
all the way across, right?
Yeah.
So we've been seeped as women and men, we've been seeped in it, and we've internalized this as truth. Now, this is not truth. The
Yeah.
truth is that every being is unwounded, unwoundable being of light, and we're all incredibly valuable man, woman, whatever race, whatever nationality, and so on, whatever religion. So what I would love for, women that are listening to hear in this moment is that you can go and do whatever you want. You can ask for what you want. You can set boundaries and and take time to do what drives you. And when you do that, you will develop deeper connections with your loved ones, and you will create more in your life that will ultimately make you feel fulfilled, and ultimately you'll actually give more to the world when you
Yeah.
just focus on yourself. And this is also a message I want to bring to everyone.
Well, I think it's like it's a common thing, because of being in the US, is like I'm African American, I'm part Native American, right? And both groups in this country have had their issues,
Yeah.
have
And-
had to deal with struggle. And I had my day job, I'm in software engineering, and I don't see a lot of people in my day job that look like me.
uh-huh.
Most of the time, I don't see people look like me at all.
Yeah.
And so there's these walls, and I can see it. And I see
Mhm.
people, and I try to help younger generation to understand you can be in this role, but they've got this wall, like you're saying, where they don't think they can be there because it's not very welcoming. And you hit these walls, and people don't want you there. And I've been doing it for 25 years. There people did not want me where I am.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's hard. Like if people aren't encouraging you and they're putting the gate up, it's not that easy to get past the gatekeepers.
Oh, yeah. No, and that's real. This is absolutely real. The discrimination is real, and the uneven opportunities, that's all true. And at the base, we are all coming with the same amount of uh, beauty, potential, life force. We might have different talents and different pathways in which we can express it. But to um, like illuminate the wall that we have internalized and believed it was true, that African American native people cannot be software working in software. They You don't belong here because you look like this, right? Or that women cannot go and like me become powerful coaches and leaders in the world. This is all constructs we get to shatter.
Yeah. You have to be a pioneer and kind of break the mold. Because I always point out that how many inventions were created by African Americans, and the
Yeah.
science aspect, Booker T. Washington, go back to Tuskegee. There's a lot of examples. My uncle was in the Air Force, and he again went to AT&T and got into the technical aspects of
Mm.
that. So in my family, we had a lot of people that gave me examples of
Yeah.
I saw, like, men in my family actually getting through and breaking through, getting
Mhm.
manager jobs, getting into engineering, being a chemist, going that way,
Mhm.
so it made it possible
Yeah.
that I could s if the problem is that people don't see themselves, or they don't see people that look like themselves, or they don't see another woman in a role as a CIO or CFO
Right.
or
And there's a
CEO.
little bit, I think it's a little bit different now because we do have the internet, and then information is available. So it's not really that we don't see it, is that we are not focused on it. So
Mhm.
again, for anyone that's interested in this, how to break these walls is stop focusing on your drawbacks, on your excuses, on the things that keep you stuck and unclear, and start focusing on what you do know, what is a doorway, focusing on other people that done that. Look for proof that what
Yes.
you want to do is possible versus looking for proof that it's impossible, right?
But I
Because
think a lot of
what
times we go for the easy way out, but it's like, well, it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't see a lot of other people like to be a pioneer. You're not going to see a lot of other people around, right?
Yeah.
Because and if you're going to work, it's like it's not all by yourself either. You build on like community, you build on like a lot of people like they have like a group of like-minded individuals. It's like law
Right.
of attraction. You start to
Mhm.
find folks that either can mentor you or you can mentor them or you people in that wheelhouse, and you start to realize that like you start to say I can instead of I can't, right? You start saying
Correct.
like I could get and you'll make mistakes. The problem is a lot of times I think people go they want to go 0 to 100. And like when I was
Mm.
saying when writing a song, like you could have like 99 versions of a song and
Mhm.
still not get there, and then the next song you get there like right away. It's like
Yeah.
it's a process, and so
Yeah.
you have to show up. Like, if you don't show up, then you'll drop the instrument and you won't learn it. Like, if you can't get that chord, eventually some people will drop it and never learn the instrument. Some people maybe try to
Absolutely.
go to do
Yeah.
rock climbing and they fall and they get discouraged and they can't, then they just drop it.
Correct. The way I like to think about this, because this is true, like in order to get somewhere, we need to put in the effort. But the way that I like to think about it for myself is that life is hard no matter what. Whether I am running my own business or working for someone, I'm gonna I'm gonna think life is hard because life is hard. It throws all kinds of things at you. I was on vacation with my mom last week and she broke her leg. This
Mhm.
wasn't
When
what we
it's intended.
planned,
Yeah, it's not what you
right?
intended.
And we rolled with it. So I like to think whatever I choose to do is going to be challenging. So I might as well choose what I want and no, not what I think is going to be easier or what's going to,
Mhm.
make others happy because I'm going to have to put in time and energy anyway.
That's interesting because, like, I got into software, and it's so weird. It's like because I was a liberal arts major. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
a comp sci major, and
Uh-huh.
so, it was like political science, sociology, history, and I got into software, and I said, "Well, how could you do that?" Right? Because in the software field, they needed people who could write research papers.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
needed people, and that was kinda like a research. Like, what does a liberal arts major do? They write papers. They do research.
Correct. Uh-huh.
And so, wait, but if you didn't know that you could actually have a role, and you could be an English major doing that too. So you could go into one of these firms and not and think because you're not a mathematician, because you're
Correct.
not the best at trig and algebra and calculus, you would think
Um,
you have no place.
yeah. And how many liberal arts major never tried what you tried,
Yeah,
right?
because I just don't think that that's where they should go. They think they should go a different
Mhm.
direction, and that's kind of the example is like it's a path not tried. You need to go look and say, "Hey, is there a way?" And you can kind of create your own way. I kind of made the argument back in the '80s to a company that you needed somebody that knew how to write research papers to be a bridge between the tech people and the people in the C-suite.
Yeah.
So if
Right.
I could be the bridge and explain to both of those worlds what's going on, then I that could be a vital role as like a translator.
Mhm. But
And
you had to
and that
see it first for yourself. You had to see it, and then you got to sell others on it, right? And this is beautiful example of how transformation happened, right? You looked at yourself, you decided, this is what I want, that's how I'm gonna do it, and then you went and you sold them
but
that
yeah,
idea.
the idea, like the house of ideas that's in your mind, sometimes you have to
Mhm.
bring them out of your head and bring it into the world and pitch it. It's like an elevator
Absolutely.
pitch that you get to somebody, you see somebody, are you gonna
Mhm.
make that pitch? Or are you gonna keep it to yourself because you don't believe in yourself? And I think that's where people like once you put it out in the world and you start to, yeah, this is an idea. It could do well, or you could say, oh, I don't know if that. Well, the only way you're gonna know is if you actually do it, right?
Right,
You actually
right.
say it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this is what I do. I have a free group for women, that's called Bold and Free. And in our free group for women, we do coaching and I help them get into action, into whatever it is that they want to start being active about in their life. So get out of their head, stop stopping themselves, and start getting out there to see what happens in the world when we come out of our shell. So the link is it's the link to this group is on the website. So if you're a woman interested in starting something, come and join my group.
And that's kind of like the idea of your finding your inner compass, right? Like what like part of what you get people to do is to kind of find that directional path from
Right.
their inner compass.
Yeah, because nobody else can tell us truly, right? Like we only know what's inside and what's really gonna fire us up. And when we find that thing and start acting, that to me is the ultimate win. in life.
Mhm.
To me, s the ultimate success is living in our purpose. Not money, not all the other stuff, but truly embodying the purpose.
I think when you find your true purpose, the other things fall into place. I'm Buddhist, I kind of feel like when you get on that right path and you're like the law of attraction and the things just start to align. And so if you're too narrowly focused and you're not looking at like the whole,
Right,
then sometimes like you miss things because you stay in the lane and you don't see what's
right,
around you. You have to have
right.
that situational awareness for the everything that's going on. It's hard, but
Yeah,
it's be
yeah.
present, like you said. You got to be present to get
Yeah,
that.
it requires present and being feedback sensitive and self inquiry, perseverance. It's a lot of things put together, and at the end, we get to live the life we always wanted.
Well, I want to encourage you, people to check out the Masters of Badassery.com. And you said once you go there, you can find other links from that link to pick different programs you might be in want to get engaged into, and that will be fully clickable. We've been live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We will be on all the other platforms so you can listen to a podcast or watch it. We're on Substack. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, a bunch of them. We create a landing page, and by tomorrow we'll get you that, and then you can have people pick whatever platform they want to check us out. But we were live on Facebook, and LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun chatting and playing jazz with our ideas.
That's why I try to weave that into everything. That's my thing. But
That's great. I love that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great night or day. I always forget what time zone people are in, but thank you.
That's fine. You have a great evening and looking forward to the replay.
Thank you.